We are here on in a pre-production, our pre-release episode of Modern Heathenry. It's Brian and I, of course. My name's Everett, and I'm the co-host with the esteemed author and heathen philosopher, Brian Wilson. I am. We are. You know, we had to put out. We're not actually launching the podcast for a couple more days, but when I woke up this morning and saw what was going on in Las Vegas, and of course, Brian's on top of what's going on out there because he lives much closer. We had to do a pre-release. We can't let something like this go without chiming in on it a little bit from a heathen perspective. So I welcome, listener. Sorry you don't have the bumper in the beginning and the bumper at the end and all that kind of nifty cool stuff that's going to happen once we release it, when we start actually releasing the podcast. But we couldn't just let this go by without taking a look at it from a heathen perspective. So, Brian, we were saying before we started recording, I was asking, because I know you did time in the military as an infantry. I had a very short stint as a mechanic, but I know you did infantry work for quite a while. Yeah. So the question is, one of the questions is, the shot the guy takes. I mean, he was from, he was on the 32nd floor. He had been there for several days. And the shot was not, I mean, he wasn't shooting, he wasn't shooting people in the, at the base of Mandalay Bay. It was like a block and a half away anyway. I mean, it was a pretty good shot.
I'm looking at a picture of the layout right now. It's a map. It shows where the music festival was, and it shows where Mandalay Bay is. And it looks like really and truly he had a perfect overwatch position it's the highest point around, overlooking that music festival.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be any accuracy, but he was fully auto, and it was probably I would suspect a 7.62. You have 1,000-meter range, effective maximum range of 7.62. He just sprayed into the crowd, and I'm looking at the layout of this thing. It looks like he was somewhat behind and to the left of the main stage. So he was firing over the shoulder of the concert venue, so to speak.
Right.
So all these people are looking at the stage. The lights are shining on these people.
Right. And of course they're immediately scattering. He might have had a minute or two, there's loud music going on, and people are trying to figure out what's happening, but it would not have taken 10 minutes for people to say, hey, wait a second, let's get the hell out.
Yeah, I saw one video where one of the performers was still singing, and it sounded like he emptied an entire clip before people figured out, hey, that's not fireworks.
Right. Well, I mean, what
they were just saying.
Yeah, but my point is that if you're on fully automatic, an entire clip. I don't know how much
30 rounds
in a clip. Okay, so 30 rounds. It doesn't take long to empty 30 rounds out of an automatic weapon. So yeah, I mean that's. But it's the guy showed up a couple days in advance. He obviously got the exact room that he needed to get. He obviously got he picked the best place that he could pick for doing this. And you mentioned it's lucky he didn't walk up with the weapon and just start shooting at ground level.
If he just walked into the fence, and started spraying through that fence, we're talking we could easily triple or quadruple the casualties that would have happened. We have 20,000 people standing shoulder to shoulder at a concert. There's not a lot of leeway to duck and cover or run or get away from. You're basically in there like cattle in a car. You're stuck. And you know what, Alan Odinson, Odinson Archery?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know Alan, don't you? I saw him talking about it the other day, and he's been talking about this very kind of thing. And I think this is a huge, huge soft target. And it was only a matter of time before something like this happened. Now, and we don't know the political motivations of it, but yes, we had 10 rifles in Mandalay Bay, and who knows what all they were. But obviously all of them were effective at range, fully automatic, spraying into, like shooting fish in a barrel.
Right, I mean, and how do you get 10 rifles into Mandalay Bay and then hide them for several days? But I mean, the New York Post pointed out that Mandalay Bay has not answered the question how he hit them from housekeeping. And look, I mean, there's a lot of questions. So I'm instantly, whenever something like that like this happens, I'll be perfectly honest with you and with the listeners. I'm always suspect as to whether it was some sort of false flag, or whether it was motivated by some sort, was it terrorism? Is it something that somebody was motivated by some political agenda? Was it a false flag to push forward a political agenda? And before people start picturing me with a tinfoil cap on, the list of quote unquote conspiracy theories that have now come out and they're absolute 100% irrefutable fact is long.
Yeah.
So
it is.
You cannot just immediately dismiss the possibility that the government is. I mean, this guy has no, according to what you've read so far, and of course we'll see as things unfold. But according to what you read so far, Brian, you said that he's not a veteran.
He's not a veteran.
Well, that suggests he doesn't have any military training. Now, that's going to make it harder. See, somebody who doesn't have military training, I would think they'd walk up to the fence and start shooting like you said. So why would somebody without some sort of military training in this kind of thing, why would they pick a hotel room a block and a half away? Because
there's less. He's going to be more successful from that location. He's going to be able to do it longer, create a greater impact. Because if he goes up to the fence, there's security on the grounds that will confront him at a much shorter time frame. You walk up to the fence carrying that many guns, he's automatically going to have a confrontation before he gets across the street.
I understand. I agree with you.
Right.
My point is that from a point of view of somebody who does not have, I mean, I was in the military, but I don't have any kind of sniper training or any kind of long-range shooting training. I was a mechanic, right? So that's why. From my point of view, that's the first thing I'm thinking is not how do you set up a block and a half or 2 blocks away. I mean, as soon as I'm looking at it, I'm going, God damn, that's a hell of a shot. Even if it's fully automatic, and even if you're shooting into a huge crowd of people, you're still shooting a block and a half, 2 blocks away, block and a half maybe, away, and I mean that's somebody who's never done that before. That's a daunting thing. Now somebody might say, well, maybe he did it. Okay, so maybe he went out in the woods and he did it. And I know a lot of hunters shoot from, make 200, 300, 400-yard shots from from trees and tree stands and this kind of thing. Members of my family can make those kind of shots. But there's a big difference between the 32nd floor and 50 feet in the air from a tree stand or 60 feet in the air on a tree stand.
One big difference is that man in the tree stand has probably spent several hours at the range sighting that rifle in.
Exactly.
So this guy, here we are with this story of this guy. Okay, here's a man that has 10 rifles in this room. We've seen no pictures of it. Everything's been shut down. We have no indication of who, what, or where he came from, or anything like that, other than he's 64 hot guy married to some woman, and they took a vacation last year in Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of of mind that are we to believe that this man was this effective? Is there a possibility that we're supposed to buy into the narrative that any man could be this effective if he has the guns?
Right. Exactly. I mean, look, that it's not hard to overshoot or undershoot that shot, even with a big crowd. And as you pointed out a few minutes ago before we started recording, aiming a fully automatic weapon is damn near impossible. So it's
not easy.
It's real easy to hit that shot, and 90% of the bullets don't even get to the crowd, or 90% of the bullets.
And I didn't see any tracer rounds either. You know, I didn't see any tracer rounds in the videos that I saw that had the noise in the background. So there's no tracer rounds, and yet he was still managed to hit 400 people and kill like 50.
Yeah, and with no military training at all, supposedly. It's just, there's a lot of unanswered questions. But here's the point from a heathen point of view. To me, it says to me that you have to be ready. You got to be ready to go. We are entering a time in the United States where between political unrest and FIFA BLM, between the threat of radical Muslims and radical Islam, and I call it Orthodox Islam. I don't call it radical because there are numbers that I've heard that say between 15 and 25% of the population of the world, of the Muslim world, is quote-unquote radicalized. Well, I got news for you. If you average that and split it down the center and take 20%, 20% is not a radical group. 20% is a very healthy minority, a strong minority. And so what that tells me is that they're Orthodox. They're Orthodox Muslims, just like there's Orthodox Jews, just like there's Orthodox Baptists. You know, there's the Southern Baptists who are Orthodox. These are Orthodox adherents to their faith. So there's, so that's a legitimate threat. So we got all these legitimate threats going on in the world today. And we as heathens have got to be ready to handle them. We've got to be, and most importantly, I think, and you can tell me if you disagree or not, but most importantly, I think, is having the mindset of preparedness and being ready to deal with this kind of stuff. So something happens around you, okay? Something goes off around you, and you have to be, you have already had to have thought about what's going on. What are you going to do? If you're sitting in an area, if you're at a theme park, and suddenly you start hearing shots pop off, are you going to stand there for 5, 10, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, a minute, with your dick in your hand going, what do I do now? Or have you already thought, if I was in this situation, what do I do? I got to find some cover, I got to hit the ground, I got to low crawl, I got to make sure that the people with me, that my loved ones who are with me are safe. Do you have a process that you've already thought through on a number of occasions so that if something happens, you're ready for it to happen? What do you do if you're in a store and somebody walks up with a gun and sticks it in the face of the people? I mean, I've thought about this stuff a lot. I'm sure you have too, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely, I have. That situational awareness is crucial, and it's far too many people that like even that kid that jumped off that. Nobody saw him go there. No security was paying attention to this boy who had just climbed over a fence on top of the stadium. And then nobody was paying attention to that.
It's funny, back when I was in the police academy, and maybe this is the root of my situation, where I get annoyed. I use that all the time with my kids. I'll be walking through the grocery store, and some old lady will be blocking the whole aisle and looking at something and be completely clueless. I'm walking up on her and standing there, and I'll just stand there. Until she moves, and we go past, and I'll look at one of the kids with me and say, "Hey, you see that? She's completely unaware of what's going on. No situational awareness at all. That's exactly how you should not be. You should always have some idea what's happening around you. But go ahead.
There was a video the other day of some lady that stole an elderly woman's purse out of her little Wheaties cart from Walmart. The lady had no idea what was going on around her.
Yeah, I remember that.
Took the purse. Yeah.
No clue. I tell you, when I was in the police academy many moons ago, a friend of mine in the academy and I and his girlfriend drove up to the store to get whatever, movie or whatever. I don't know, we were in college. And he and I got out of the car and looked around, and she got out of the car, she saw it, and she's like, "The fuck is up with both of you?" And we said, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "You get out of the car and you look around like, like we're getting out of the, somebody's going to attack us." Well, make sure nobody's going to attack us. That's what we're doing. And it's just habit. It's just a habit you get into. So, I still do it, and I'm not perfect at it, but it's just a habit you get into. You just recognize that violence happens all around you. And what does the Havamal say about not being too far from your weapons and
never
about
do
keeping
it.
your wits about you and about keeping, well, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, never step away from your weapon. You never know when you're going to need it in the field. And that's the truth of the matter. When you get to these big events like this, these big concerts, like the state fair is going on in Tulsa right now, I simply cannot bring myself to go to it. I have a 6-year-old little girl, and I have a wife who's, looking at her phone, just completely unaware, and it drives me insane. But I cannot bring myself to go to that. It's just so, even if it's full of cops, it's full of deputy sheriffs and security and everything else, the crowd is a panicky animal. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what you have. You can't defend yourself against a herd of 10 or 15,000 people.
Well, and that's the thing is how many of those 50 people who died or the 400 who were injured, how many of them died from the fire, from the shot, and how many of them died from the stampede?
There was one guy I saw that was interviewed. He was 50-something years old, and there were a couple of teenagers or 20 years or something that had fallen down, and he got down on top of them, and he had shoe prints on the back of his shirt. So he was on top of them, protecting them from being crushed by this stampede. I thought, no, that's got it, man. That's what it's all about. And but that's what you expect to find at a concert like this. That's what you expect to find at a country music concert. And I'm surprised that one of those people weren't armed. But even if they were, there's nothing they could have done against someone on the 32nd floor. Not one thing.
No, someone on the 32nd floor, that far away. I mean, even hell, you'd have to be one hell of a sniper to be able to take that shot and get it.
Most people are carrying a sidearm.
Yeah, and
most of the people have a sidearm.
It's not going to happen with your with your revolver.
Yeah, your Timber 45 is not going to make that shot.
Yeah, and that's another good point is how panicky and how how once that herd mentality kicks in, it just people start panicking and you know who panics though, by the way, Brian? It's the people who panic are not that 50-year-old guy who thinks about it and knows what's going on. It's not you or me or Alan Odinson or Chris Giacchio we talked about, in the podcast that we recorded yesterday, but it's going to actually be released in a couple weeks. It's not those guys who panic. It's the people who've never given any thought to this stuff before at all. They have no idea exactly. And the problem is that's most people. So this thing happens, this thing blows up, and then suddenly it's like, and it's like a punch in the face of reality. Suddenly you're living in your nice little world, insulated from violence, having a good time. Jason Aldean's on stage. You're half drunk anyway. You're hanging out with friends, and suddenly pop, 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 and people start falling around you. And now, what do you do, right? And the answer is you go to the most base instinct that we have, and that's self-preservation. I got to keep breathing. I got to keep living.
Fight or flight, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just what happens. People start running, and then they end up trampling people, like you said. That guy fell down, or that guy went down on top of those people. Well, how did he survive? Why wasn't he trampled to death? Well, because he probably used the structure of his body to, he's going to be sore as hell, and he might have a broken ribs or something. But he used the structure of his body in order to protect himself, so that these kids that he dropped down on top of were probably taking feet to the stomach and feet to the chest
and the head,
feet to the head, And he protected himself against all that and then used his body to shield that. So see, he was thinking. Because if he didn't, he'd be dead. Right? If he didn't, if he was getting kicked in the face and stomped in the chest and stomped in the stomach, that's how you die in those things. Just because you're saving, or because you're trying to get up and you keep getting kicked and all kinds of stuff. So it's it's a bad situation, but we live in a fucked up world. We live in a world where violence is we are no longer insulated from violence like we once were, and we've got to be prepared when it shows up. We've got to be prepared to handle it when it shows up. But if you don't prepare yourself to handle it when it shows up, then you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be in a lot of trouble.
That speaks more. I've spoke a lot about this too. That goes into the self-reliance part of the 9 noble virtues. That everybody talks about self-reliance as, well, I'm going to go get a job, or whatever it might be, I'm going to do that job, and support my family. Well, if you go get the job making $9 an hour, you're not capable of supporting your family. You may be working as a martyr, but you're not. That's not what it is. That kind of self-reliance, that speaks highly of your integrity and your character, and that you can get out there and you'll endure it and deal with it. But bringing home a $300 paycheck every week won't pay your bills.
No.
But when we're talking about self-reliance, all of these people, and every one of these big crowds that get together, they are by default allowing the preservation of their person to be handed over to someone else.
The security.
And everyone seems to, and it doesn't matter if it's the security, it doesn't matter if it's the water you drink, it doesn't matter if it's the electricity you use, it doesn't matter if it's the school that your kid goes to. All of us have bought into the strength of this society as being something that will foster future generations and allow us to live in a manner that we want to live in. Right. And yet we have the technology right now. We can drill a well. We can put water, you can buy wells, water purifications on your home. You can file a land patent. You can own your property. You can put solar on your home and power the whole thing. Right. This is reliant. We can be reliant, and people are still convinced that we can sacrifice that responsibility to ourselves and our progeny to someone else and be okay in the world. And there's things that go with that. There are roles that come with that. You do have to find a job that pays these bills. You are at the whim of somebody else's decision-making process, not your own. And when a threat like this appears, it creates a crack in the facade of all of these people who believe that, well, I've got a good job, I've got an education, I pay my bills on time, I have a credit score. Right. Well, why has this person made this decision that's affected my life? The biggest risk to that stability and that security has always been health care. God forbid something bad happens to you, you got to go to the hospital, well, now you're fucked. Now everything's at risk because of that. So the government stepped in and tried to provide that security for people. We'll take this responsibility from you too. And it's just, when you get this kind of stuff going on, it's a terrifying reminder that these people that are not living with a heathen mindset don't have their shit together as well as they think they do.
But
and that's people that party. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, exactly. It's important that we live our day-to-day lives with a certain level of illusion.
Absolutely.
Because you can't, if you had to face the stark realities of every possible danger that you face on a daily basis, you wouldn't come out from under your bed. Right? I mean, I don't care how big, how tough you are, you'd say, so you have to have a certain level of illusion of safety, but you also have to take a moment. You also have to take time and say, okay, let's look at the world for what it really is. And let's look at what's really going on here. And let's understand that the police have no responsibility to really protect any individual. And they might not have the capability of protecting you in a situation. Where are the weaknesses in my life? Oh, well, one of the weaknesses in my life is the fact that without the supply chains that are happening right now, I don't have any food. Okay, well, now I'm not saying that you have to go out and plant a garden, buy goats, and buy a cow and tomorrow. But how about if you start looking into doing some of that? How about if you take a look at some local farmers who are growing this stuff and acknowledge, okay, well, listen, I can't buy from them all the time, but let me start getting a relationship with these people so that if something does happen, I still have a source of food. I can at least go get eggs from Sherry, who lives down the block. I can at least go get meat from the guy who's an hour outside of town.
At the very least,
he knows them,
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's that. Yeah, there's that. But at the very least, have something set aside. Have, if people don't, if a tornado hits here, if an earthquake hits LA, how many of those people know they can go to their pantry and have at least a breakfast and a dinner for the next 4 or 5 days?
I bet
just 4 or 5 days.
I bet you.
Oh, absolutely it is. And they make fun of them. Oh, well, let me tell you something. When I was living in Linden, in Utah, every one of my in-laws would have entire outbuildings, entire closets full of 55-gallon drums of water. They would have stacks and stacks and stacks of propane for fuel. They would have all kinds of meals ready to eat. I mean, Jared had at least 5 of those 55-gallon drums of water, and brother, they were full of water. There was no joke. The entirety of the Mormon faith insists that you be prepared.
Yeah. Well, you have the ability. You have the ability to take care of yourself if something happens, and therein lies that. See, there's a.
I think we need to really start pushing that Heathenry thing.
Yeah, well, too many people never give it any consideration, and what I'm saying is at least give it some thought. I mean, better that you do something, but at least give it some thought. At least have a plan. I mean, look, if your plan is a hurricane hits or a tornado hits and the supply lines are down, and or something happens and the supply lines are down and the store is out of food, I mean, even if your plan is to get 4 or 5 of your guys together to go steal it from somebody else, I'm not endorsing that, but at least have a plan. I'm not saying
there's going to be 4 or 5 guys doing the same thing.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's a good idea, but I'm saying at least have a plan. Have thought about something, and it's a shame because too often people don't. Too often people are sitting, minding their own business, listening to their favorite music artist, and the next thing you know,
that gunfire went on for 15. Yeah, that gunfire went on for 15 minutes.
Yeah, 15 minutes.
15 minutes. That's longer than most firefights in Vietnam, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, and here's the thing. For me, part of preparedness is to specifically avoid those kind of places. You know what I mean? Like
there is that too.
I just like you said, you don't like to go to the fair. And I'm kind of the same way. Occasionally people come down and they want to go to Disney or something, and that's cool. I'm not saying that I refuse to go where crowds are, but for the most part, I stay away from crowds. I live in a nice suburban area, but there's not even crowds. It's not even crowded subdivisions. Like all the lots are acre lots. So there's just not a big crowd around here, and it's and part of the reason is because, like you said, that's a soft target. Those areas are soft targets, number one, and number two, because you have to deal with the herd mentality when that kind of thing happens. So I just want people, I just want heathens to start really thinking about some of this stuff, start giving some consideration to it. Our holy text, our holy books, if we have holy books, there's the closest thing we might have is the Boa and the Havamal, but if you, they even talk about being prepared. The Havamal even talks about being prepared for this kind of stuff. The Boa is all about it's all about the desire to be prepared for Ragnarok, to know what's coming, to be able to see what's happening, so that he can get prepared for it.
I asked Steve Allen where those came from, where those non-noble virtues came from. And I said, you remember where this started? He started it. Where did all this come from? And he told me quite plainly. He said, those were the ideas that showed up again and again and again in the sagas and the lore.
Right.
Those things were reiterated. That message continually popped out at the people that, when the Odinocrat was putting all that together in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And people want to say, well, it's not the Ten Commandments. No, it's not. It's about living a life, and they get distracted by that. They want to pump up their ego, but you're right. I think look at the success the LDS community has had. They have their own state, for crying out loud. And
right.
There's part of me that really wishes that it's that 51st state of Jefferson splits off to California. I would love to see that become a heathen state. I would like to see, heathen congressmen and, let's make that the heathen state. There's no reason we can't, except for, we're all too important for each other. But at some point, we've got to start. That's hysterical. We're all too important for each other. We are. Okay.
Oh, I love that.
That's what's standing in our way. But really, truly, there's entire industries that are thriving because these people take the end of the world seriously. And Utah is a fairly stable environment. It's going to be hot and it's going to be less hot. But it's pretty nice, and when I lived there, it was beautiful. But those people were all, and it was not just one or two radicals. It was every single one of them. Their pastors were telling them, look, you need to make sure you have something set aside. You need to make sure you have something to defend your family. And that was the head of the household responsibility, defend your family. I feel particularly violated today. Somebody stole a plant off of my front porch. I'm so mad I don't know whether this year to go blind. I'm going to find them. I'm going to hope my revenge.
Well, and people say, well, it's just a plant. No, it's not just a plant, because once you allow that kind of incursion, once people know that they can do that to you, then it's just going to get worse. It's just going to be more. It's just going to be more and more problems.
I fully intend to be a bully to every grown man I see riding a bicycle down my street.
You believe what?
I fully intend to be a bully to every grown man that I see riding a bicycle down my street. You bastards.
Right. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We had during the hurricane, we had some folks up who were evacuating, and there was an unusual number of vehicles driving through my neighborhood. So my neighborhood is a complete dead end. It's one way in, one way out for a car. Obviously, you can walk. You can just walk. It's not gated, so you just walk in or out. But if you drive in a car, it's one way in, one way out, and it's a circle. So you drive it in, you go around the circle, you leave, right? And there was a lot of traffic coming back and forth. And so Ray started running out and taking pictures of the cars that were coming back and forth. And, she was like, I don't know what all these fucking cars are doing, but I don't have any interest at all. And she's like, we live in a reasonably nice neighborhood. So she figured if nothing else, they might be looking to loot. If we have if something happens, then these people could be driving around looking for people with nicer vehicles and with what looks like, what house they're going to hit first. And she said, if that's the case, then they need to know that I got pictures of their I got pictures of their car. And so she was standing out there very blatantly taking pictures. And one of them stopped in front of our house. So she started walking out there to see what they wanted, and I was following her out there. And it was just some people who were lost. They were just trying to find an address, and she helped them find the address. She was nice about it. But I was, I'm not nice about that kind of stuff. I'm like, what the fuck do you want? Right. Is there something I can help you with, pal? I'm more.
Hey, buddy.
You were driving around this dead end neighborhood back and forth and back and forth. But she was very nice about it. Oh yeah, I said, okay, well here's how you going. Okay, and they drove over south. But it's you know, I mean, it's just a matter of keeping in mind. I don't want to get into it. I mean, we're, you know, it's been a lot of fun. But guys, you know, men, women, heathen. Listen, you got to give some thought to what happens if. What happens if the grocery store doesn't have any food? What happens if you can't get fuel for your car? What happens if you know, your electricity is shut off because of, you know, of some major grid collapse? What happens?
I mean, the electric grid's under attack all the time.
Right.
I mean, you know that. We tell you some here in Charleston, that power plant I worked at was built in 1953 and 54. Okay, and that thing is old. Some of the brass gears, that's a Westinghouse turbine, right? It's old, and some of the gears have swastika stamps on them. I mean, it was built a long time ago. Right. If the grid goes down, that facility, that ancient power plant that tubes are busting in it all the time, has 3 generators. It is the only black start capable generator or power plant for AEP in this part of the country. Now they can fire one generator up and then fire the second, and then fire the third, and those 3 produce enough power to fire up one unit. And then they can fire up the other unit. Once both units are fired up, then they can send out electricity to, you know, Oologah, and then Riverside, and then Arkansas, and then Southern Oklahoma, and you know. So the success of our power plant, of our electric needs being restarted, is dependent upon 3 generators that are basically train locomotives from the 1930s and 40s.
Well, yeah, because they're not run by computers. So if an EMP goes off, and you know, people are, oh, what are you now? You're crazy EMP. What are you talking about? Well, look, in case you haven't checked, we're having some big tension. There's some tension going on with Russia. There's a lot of tension going on in the Middle East. You know, there's a lot of people sneaking in, causing trouble. You know, it hasn't happened yet, but it never happens until it does happen. And then when it does happen, you know, the people who have given it some thought are okay.
I'm not even taking into consideration the sun. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. I mean, the sun, a solar flare big enough would you know, fuck the entire planet. I don't mean because we'd be roasted. I mean all of our electronics and all of our high-end whoopie-doo gadgets would be gone just like that.
Do you know that every week or so, there is a solar flare or CME, coronal mass ejection, that is sufficiently powerful to interrupt communications between airplanes, ships, satellites, radio, TV signals, something that affects some portion of the world. Usually it's over the Atlantic or the Pacific, and we never really see it. Now, the aviation know about it, but you can. There's a place that will show you where the solar storm is. We deal with solar storms in 1989. One of them was strong enough to knock out the grid in Quebec.
Really? See, I didn't know about that in '89, but that's recent history. That's not
recent history.
Nothing's been upgraded dramatically in the last 20 or 25 years. You know.
Oh, they're trying to. They're wanting to gold plate everything as they rebuild the national grid.
Uh-huh.
That's why our electric rates are going up. They're wanting to rebuild everything. But be that as it may, it does. It's old. But be that as it may, we're still, as heathens coming out of this, waking up to being dependent on something out there to fix what's in here. We also need to be aware that our dependence upon all of these comforts that we take for granted can disappear with no warning.
Right.
And people, and we have a lot of people that, especially people who live in the major metropolitan areas, they have no clue that pop up a solar panel. You can buy one at one of some hardware store. Or you build your own, or put up a wind or something, just to keep your food cold.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and just along those lines, just real quick, I just wanted to comment. It's completely out in left field, but we brought up solar a couple times. I'm a big fan of solar. I think people should be looking into it. But one of the things that there was a thing going around that after Irma, it was illegal to run your solar panels if you, it was illegal to run your solar panels in an area.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, that's bullshit. It wasn't illegal to run them. What happened, first, it's not a mandate. Second, it is because you're hooked up to the electric grid so that you can take electricity when you need it and then send electric back and run your meter backwards. So because you get it, because these people get a credit on their electric bill or they get a check from the electric company every year or whatever, if you're if the electric power grid goes down and you have to have workers come and work on the line, well, they don't want your solar panels sending a charge through the line while the workers are working on them.
They need you really need a disconnect to be able to absolutely disconnect from that grid if you can.
Right. So that was the thing. Not that it's a huge deal, but it was just something. Another thing, you got to be careful where you get your information. There's so many people freaking out and saying stuff. Oh, you're not allowed to run your solar panels. We're going to find out it's an industry standard. It's not a mandate, and it just makes good sense. I mean, I know if I'm a line worker working 12-hour days trying to get your electric back on for your neighbors, I don't want your fucking solar panel to kill me because you don't want to you don't want to disconnect from the grid. So be that as it may, I just want to say one of the important things, guys, is make sure you're careful about where you get your information and what information you get, and hopefully you are anyway. But
and the best place to get it is right here.
yes, absolutely. The best place to get it is on modernheathenry.com. So.
Shameless plug. I'll take it, man. I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take it. Who cares? So listen, one last thing. You mentioned when you all of us being too important for each other. That's funny. But I heard a guy say one time, and this was a heathen who was very active in the community at one point, and is not now for several reasons. And a lot of people don't like him, and I don't want to say who he is because what he has to say is more important than if you wouldn't like this guy, then your feelings about getting your nose out of joint about the fact that you didn't like him because of this and that and the other fucking stupid thing. So because you're too important for him, right?
Yeah, it is important.
But one of the things was it was about gifting, and and he said when heathens give gifts, it's not just giving a gift; it's a trade of energy, it's a trade of years. It's an indebtedness because it indebts the gift giver to the gift giver. Right, so you give a gift, and they get the gift. Now they have a certain level of indebtedness to you because of the gift. There's a whole dynamic that goes on with gift giving in the Hebrew culture. And he said, but what people don't realize is that creates a situation sometimes where people, and I'm paraphrasing dramatically, but that creates a situation sometimes where people don't want to give gifts because they don't want to take a gift because they don't want to feel indebted to you, and they don't want to give a gift because they don't want to have the thing. So what they don't realize is that there's a reason behind it. So I trade gifts with you, and I give you a gift, and you're indebted to me, and you give me a gift, I'm indebted to you, and I give that person a gift, and they're indebted to me, and that person gives you a gift, and you're indebted to them, and then we trade, and we all trade gifts eventually. We all trade gifts with each other, and we're all indebted to each other. And maybe when we're all indebted to each other, we'll stop fighting with everybody.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I always loved that. Idea that maybe when we all, maybe we can get around fighting with each other when we all owe each other something.
There is that. When we share all might and main with each other, It really does take the edge off of how you is. You got a lot of wind right now, man.
Yeah, it just sparked right up. I'm looking at our little pond here, and Odin started blowing his horn or something. I don't know. It's not blowing his horn.
Yeah, no kidding. You know, those are going to sound like sirens. We're all going to know what that is. But anyway, that sharing of might and main with each other is something that's all too often overlooked, and it's all too often so easily overlooked when the limit of our spiritual foundation comes from social media. Right. I think that's one of the big drawbacks. I think that's what allows so many people to boost their egos, because there's no fear of discrimination. I heard Jack Donovan talking the other day, and I don't know what some people like him, some people don't like him because he's homosexual, but whatever the case may be, he's been allowed to say some of those things that have needed to be said, and he's been able to say that without a fear of discrimination because of his sexual proclivities, whatever they may be. But he's been able to bring that out. I think that, going to those big events, having people into your home, feeding each other, all of that stuff is so vitally important to the strength of building this entire way of life. When you go to somebody's home and you see that they are prepared for some things, if they have, cabinets full of food, well, then you might have a little bit of an idea to do the same thing. When you go to somebody's house and you see the comfort in which they live and they're powered and tired by solar or wind or something else, well, then you might have a little bit of inclination to, I think I can do that too. Because so much of the prepper identity, so much of that has always been, well, I might lose some of the comfort that I enjoy now. And we live in an age where it's not that way. The technology is here that we don't have to sacrifice those things that we take for granted to be prepared to enjoy our self-reliance. One more neat thing that I think ties in this resurgence of this indigenous faith to the world we live in now. One more little indication that people are ready for that radical shift in consciousness to become reliant upon themselves and still live that good life. Everybody's always looked at the farmer that works is too hard work. And it is hard work, but it's also immensely rewarding work. But now we have technology that is so far, each one of those solar panels now will generate 321 watts. And they're getting better every year. You have 6 of them on your home. If you have 6 of them on your home, you finance that through Edison, your payment's going to be about $58 a month. And you'll have it paid off in 5 years and never owe another electric bill. Never owe another electric bill.
And with some of the stuff that's happening with the Gigafactory, with the batteries that he's putting for the home that are going to be very inexpensive. Elon Musk, I'm talking about Tesla.
Oh, yeah.
The batteries that he's setting up that are just dirt cheap and that's good, solid batteries that you can run your whole home on. So even at night you're running, even if it's cloudy you're running, even if no matter what you're running.
The efficiencies are there. The reality of it is there. And I think it's just one more of those real big indicator flags saying, look, it's time to stop relying on everyone else for your security, for your safety, for your comfort, for the well-being of your family. Just like we need to stop blaming everyone else and all these other groups, we also need to start accepting that. And the point you made about, sharing our might and main with each other, all of that ties together.
Well, imagine for a moment what would happen to our folkline, to our faith, if all the heathens focused on what you just said. They focused on working a little extra. We talked about, they focused on becoming a better version of themselves, shutting off the TV, devoting a little more time to family and community, devoting a little more time to some sort of side gig that gets them some extra cash. They took that extra cash. They put solar panels on their house. They filled their pantry. They did all the things that you would think about for for good, solid members of a community. They became good, solid members of their local community. And the only thing that was missing, the only thing different than the rest of the community, is that they feigned to be ICR. They wore a hammer. Now all of a sudden when people look, they're not seeing, and I see this happening, right? So it is a trend that's starting. I would just like to see it, I would like to encourage it and help it on. But now people are saying, oh, well, Jim Jim doesn't go to church, but, he does something with, something, I don't know what he does with something with Odin or and all that kind of stuff. But, that being said, he's the coach of the Little League team, and his house is, he's the place. His house is the place you want to go if we ever get hit by a tornado. He's got solar power, AC runs no matter what. He's got food, he's got water, he's got all the stuff that you think that you might need. He's got it all handled. And, he's a really solid, good member of the community. What do you think would happen from that point of view from our folk? Like suddenly we would not be fringe weirdos who were, people would want to know more. Oh my God, why'd you do all this? What are you doing? Well, it's because, it's, Jim says, well, it has to do with my faith, and, I want to know more about that. What are you talking about?
That's it right there. That's exactly right. That dynamic in and of itself would do more to create, and secure all place at the table of these great faiths of the world than anything else. Not our adherence to certain ideas that determine, that others use to determine the quality of our heathenry, but the simple fact that we live a life that others find worth emulating. And I've said that time and time again, and you just put it so eloquently into words. When you walk down the street, are people saying hi to you? Or are you sitting there, what kind of presence do you put forth?
Right.
And it's just an amazing thing. The technology is here for us to be able to do that. It's all here.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I think Bill McNamara is working in solar right now.
Yes, yeah, Billy's doing solar stuff now in New York. We just got to go back to the Havamal and open our minds from Iron Age, Germanic tribal. What did this advice mean at a high level to Iron Age Germanic tribesmen? And then say, okay, now that we have an idea of what the philosophies and the ideas are behind this, now let's bring it forward to a modern America setting, a modern American setting, and let's or modern European setting or whatever, and let's take a look, how we can apply that. Not only by making sure that when we leave the house that we are armed in some way, like the Havamal recommends, but also by, that's about preparedness. That's about the understanding that when you're away from your homestead, you could at any given moment have to fight for your life. Okay, but that's really about preparedness. So now let's take a look and figure out how we can be prepared everywhere, not just.
It's kind of, really when you boil it all down, it is a part and parcel of this taking responsibility for this veil, this holy enclosure of our bodies, and the lagus contained within it. It is the responsibility to ensure the safety of that.
Absolutely.
And so I hate that this tragedy has happened, and I still see people going on and on about it. There's still more people have died, and there's more people have been wounded. But it is, we can either allow this to become one of those polarizing ideas that separates people, or we can use this as a catalyst to truly begin to look at this wisdom contained in this lore and how it might apply to this modern age, and how it might be worthwhile to really begin to take a strong look at some of these things. And, this is one of the reasons I wanted to keep my family farm. I wanted that thing for all of these reasons. It was not in a metropolitan area. It produced its own food. You could run cattle on it. It had a well. All of the benefits were there. But we there's so much in society that no longer values that. Once again, this is a 180-degree shift from allowing someone else to handle the responsibility for our well-being. Now we're taking it back. We don't have to be violent about it. We don't have to be dicks about it. We can just stand up and take an action here. Take an action there. Let's do this here. Okay, I've got 6 rifles. I bet I can sell those 2 and pay for my solar panels. I bet I can sell those 2 for the water purification or a rainwater harvesting system in my house to even flush my toilet, whatever.
There you go.
You know?
There you go.
People don't want to think like that. Yeah. So anyway. But it's changing. I think this part of modern heathenry is what is the cutting edge of that whole endeavor.
Yeah. You know, that was the idea of the podcast and of our endeavor here was to be that cutting edge, was to kind of give, you know, for the people who were interested in it, to kind of be a place where they could come and see what was happening and what's going on.
Yeah, I agree. There's plenty of people out there telling men how to be men again. And let's tell these men how to operate in a way that makes others say, you know what, that guy's got it really going on.
Yeah,
that's what we got to go next.
That dude's got his shit together. I want to know more about that. So, all right, brother. Well, listen, it's we have interrupted our work day in order to do this and get this out because of the urgency of it. You know, I'm sure you're joining me in saying that I hope that Sunar sees and that air blesses those who are involved in this tragedy, and you know, and that is and folks, if you happen to hear this, you know, before we've actually launched, please keep an eye out for Brian and for my Facebook page and social media and whatnot, because we really want. You know, I mean, we would love to have you as a listener, and we hope that you enjoy what we have to say.
Yes, thank you very much.